A grizzly bear skull sits on the counter of the Slave Lake RCMP detachment. World record size, peppered with small, clean holes clustered in the same 2-inch circle of temporal bone. The woman who put them there is 63 years old and holding a single-shot .22 caliber rimfire designed for rabbits. The officer on duty does not believe what the evidence is telling him. May 1953. The muskeg and heavy timber country of the Slave Lake drainage, northern Alberta. Black spruce and tamarack press against oil survey cut lines. Ruler-straight corridors carved through the bush for seismic crews. The ground is waterlogged beneath a thin crust of duff. Air temperature sits near 44 Fahrenheit degrees. Light carries the flat gray quality of an overcast subarctic morning. Sound is absorbed before it travels 20 yards. Bella Twin, a 63-year-old Cree grandmother and lifelong trapper, is working this cut line with her partner, Dave Auger. They are looking for small game, squirrels, rabbits, possibly a stray lynx. Bella carries a Cooey Ace 1, a bolt-action single-shot chambered for .22 long, a cartridge weaker than the standard .22 long rifle. Between every shot, the shooter must thumb-cock a knob at the rear of the bolt. In 3 decades on this drainage, a grizzly has never been part of the expected inventory. Here, they are an anomaly. To see why Bella's response window was so narrow, we have to look at what the bear was doing before it became visible. The bear is not concealed in brush. It is standing on the cut line itself, open sightline, already occupying their route. It does not charge. It begins to follow at a slow walk. A grizzly at a controlled walk covers 3.5 miles per hour. A human running covers roughly 8 miles per hour on firm ground. On waterlogged muskeg, that gap collapses. Running is not a viable exit. Bella stops. She does not run. The bear closes with a steady, unhurried gait, head low, shoulders rolling. Bella told wildlife officials she did not experience what she called fear. The provincial records capture her exact phrase, a cold, calculating necessity. Investigators found her composure the most striking element of the entire account. The bear reaches 15 feet. Bella can see the coarse guard hairs on its shoulder and the moisture on its nose. It pauses and turns its head slightly, a lateral sniff, presenting the temple in profile. The squamosal bone, just behind the orbital socket, is the one place on a mature grizzly where the skull wall is thin enough for a low-velocity projectile to reach the brain. The window is roughly 2 inches in diameter. At 15 feet with a steady platform, it is an achievable shot. Beyond 30 feet on a moving target with a .22 long, it almost certainly is not. Bella raises the Cooey Ace 1, thumbs the cocking knob, aligns the iron sights, and fires. The bullet enters the squamosal region, transits the temporal bone, and enters the brain. It does not exit. The bear drops where it stands. No momentum, no spin, immediate collapse. The .22 long, traveling at roughly 1,000 feet per second, carries no excess energy beyond the brain itself. All its limited kinetic energy deposits in one location. That is precisely why it works. Bella does not stop. She cocks the bolt, places the muzzle on the same wound, and fires again. 7 or 8 more times. Each shot requires a deliberate mechanical action on a hand that should be shaking with adrenal load. She called it making sure. In remote terrain with no evacuation and no backup, a partially incapacitated 800-pound animal is not a resolved problem. Medical findings and aftermath. To understand the full record, we will look to the physical evidence. When the skull was measured by the Boone and Crockett protocol, it scored 26 7/16 of an inch, the largest grizzly skull recorded in North America at that time. The bone preserved the evidence, a cluster of clean .22 caliber perforations, all within the squamosal region of the right temporal plate. Every follow-up shot had landed inside the same 2-inch zone, no random scatter. Officials noted the shot grouping, maintained under acute stress, as the most operationally significant finding of the incident. There are no documented physical injuries to Bella Twin. No contact occurred. She resumed trapping the following season and did not acquire a larger firearm. The psychological record is equally spare. No treatment, no withdrawal from bushwork. Investigators described her debrief composure as the behavioral signature of someone who processed the event as a solved technical problem rather than a trauma. Incident analysis. There are no gear failures here. The Kui Ace-1 functioned as designed. What the analysis reveals is the near total absence of margin. Bella did not run, removing the trigger for a pursuit charge. She did not fire early. A chest shot would not have reached a vital organ through fat, muscle, and ribcage. She waited for the one profile shot the anatomy offered, held her sight picture at 15 feet, then ran the bolt 7 more times under full adrenal load, accurately. The systemic error was carrying a cartridge with zero tolerance for imperfect shot placement in terrain where grizzlies could appear. She made no individual errors. That combination is what makes this a record rather than a fatality. Practical takeaway. This story is not an argument for small caliber firearms in bear country. It documents the precise skill threshold required to survive when you are carrying one. Bella had decades of experience, anatomical knowledge, and the discipline to hold position while a predator closed to 15 feet. A larger caliber reduces the cost of imperfection. Bella Twin had no margin for imperfection. She used none. Before we jump to the next story, if you're watching on TV, you can point your phone at the code in the corner to subscribe. That way, you won't miss the next incident report. The next case begins in a few seconds. The admitting doctors at the Alaska Native Medical Center wrote multiple grizzly bite wounds in the intake report. They did not write that Robert Miller had been armed or that a loaded .357 Magnum revolver, 3 rounds still in the cylinder, was recovered at the scene. Miller survived. The case study that followed became one of the most referenced failure analyses in Alaskan bear defense training. June 2010. The Kenai Peninsula, Alaska. The terrain here is brush-choked and dense with late spring green-up vegetation, the kind of growth that reaches shoulder height, compresses sight lines to a few yards, and provides near-perfect concealment for a resting bear. The Kenai carries one of the highest brown bear densities in North America. Every remote work site on the peninsula is, by default, bear country. Robert Miller is a 54-year-old geologist conducting fieldwork at a remote survey site. He is not a novice. He understands the environment and has prepared for it. On his chest, in a holster positioned for immediate access, he carries a Ruger .357 Magnum. In the hierarchy of bear defense handguns, the .357 is considered the minimum effective caliber for Grizzly, provided it is loaded with heavy, non-expanding bullets built for deep penetration. Miller's choice of firearm is correct. His preparation is professional. Statistical data at the time suggested handguns stopped bear attacks in roughly 98% of documented cases. Miller is about to enter the other 2%. To see where the defensive window closed, we have to look at the physics of the approach. A brown bear sow, likely startled from a daybed in the alders, launches a full-speed charge from less than 25 yards. There is no vocalization, no head swaying, no bluff sequence. It is a committed charge at full acceleration. A charging grizzly covers ground at speeds exceeding 35 miles per hour. At 25 yards, that translates to a contact interval of roughly 1.5 seconds. The decision-making window is not narrow. it is nearly non-existent. Miller draws the Ruger. He would tell investigators the bear was moving so fast it appeared as a blur of brown fur. That specific description appears repeatedly in failure reports from high-speed encounters. At those closure rates, the front sight post disappears from the shooter's visual field. The shooter defaults to point shooting, instinctive alignment without a confirmed sight picture. At 15 feet, even a slight tremor in the wrist translates to a miss of several inches on a moving target. He fires 3 rounds. Ballistic evidence recovered later suggests the rounds grazed the animal or missed entirely. The bear does not slow. It does not redirect. Then Miller stops firing. With the bear nearly upon him and 3 live rounds remaining in the cylinder, he drops the revolver and transitions to a passive defense, dropping to the ground, covering his neck. The bear does not interpret the cessation of fire as a de-escalation. It hits him at full speed with the force of a vehicle collision. The mauling is brief and severe. The sow bites into his arms and legs, applying the crushing, shaking force a bear uses to neutralize a perceived threat. She eventually moves off. Miller is left alone in the alders, bleeding, miles from his team and his radio. Medical findings and aftermath. To see the physical cost of the tactical transition, we look to the surgical record. Surgeons treated deep puncture wounds and extensive soft tissue damage across Miller's limbs. Bear bites involve crush injury rather than clean laceration. The wound profile is wide, deep, and heavily contaminated with oral bacteria. Miller required multiple surgeries and weeks of aggressive antibiotic treatment to manage infection risk alongside the structural repairs. He recovered. The timeline and details of his return from the encounter site are not fully documented in the available records. The .357 Magnum was recovered intact. 3 live rounds remained in the cylinder. The firearm had not malfunctioned. The caliber had not failed. The machine had done nothing wrong. Incident analysis. The controlling error was the premature transition from active defense to passive defense while a loaded firearm was still in hand. Analysis of bear defense outcomes shows that the 98% success rate is built almost entirely on one behavior: continued fire until the animal stopped or changed direction. By dropping the gun with rounds remaining, Miller surrendered his only mechanical advantage at the moment it was most needed. A .357 Magnum that does not connect with vital tissue performs no differently than no gun at all. The 3 fired rounds were likely compromised by tunnel vision and point shooting error under extreme adrenal stress. The play dead protocol is designed for unarmed individuals or for bears that have already made and broken contact. Deploying it while holding a loaded revolver during an active charge creates a gap the bear's momentum will fill every time. Practical takeaway. Miller's case is not a story about caliber. The .357 was adequate. The lesson is about commitment. If you draw a firearm during a bear charge, you fire until the cylinder is empty or the animal is down. The moment you stop is the moment the outcome transfers to the bear. Carry the right gun. More importantly, carry the resolve to use every round in it. A grizzly bear lies dead yards from a cabin door in the Alaskan interior. The man who stopped it was not on a guided hunt or a backcountry expedition. He was doing property maintenance. The weapon he used was the handgun on his hip. The distance at which the bear was dropped was roughly 10 feet. The margin between routine mourning and fatal outcome was measured in seconds. May 2023. The semi-wilderness of the Alaskan interior, where the boundary between residential property and active bear habitat does not exist in any meaningful way. The green-up season brings bears into proximity with structures, outbuildings, and cleared land. Encounters do not begin at trailheads. They begin the moment a door opens. Jimmy Cox is a resident of this environment, experienced in its realities. He steps outside to perform routine property maintenance. He is not carrying a slung rifle or a shotgun. Those tools are inside, which is where they usually are during ordinary chores. On his hip, in a consistent holster position, is a Glock Model 20 chambered in 10mm auto. The 10mm has become the dominant Alaskan defensive handgun choice over the past several years, occupying a specific tactical position. The ballistic energy of a light Magnum load combined with the 15-round capacity of a modern semi-automatic. It is not the most powerful handgun cartridge available. It is the most practical combination of power and volume currently on the market for this specific application. To see why Jimmy's choice of carry method was the controlling variable, we have to look at the timeline of the approach. The brush breaks without warning. A large Grizzly initiates a full-speed charge from close range. There is no vocalization, no bluff sequence, no standoff interval. The bear covers the distance with the mechanical efficiency of an animal that weighs several hundred pounds and is capable of exceeding 35 miles per hour at a sprint. Jimmy would tell investigators afterward that the bear was moving so fast he barely had time to register his front sight. That description places the encounter squarely inside what defensive trainers call the reactionary gap, the interval in which a human must transition from a baseline mental state to a full defensive response. In this encounter, that interval is essentially zero. He draws the Glock and fires. He does not fire once and pause to assess. He uses the semi-automatic's manageable recoil and low bore axis to track the bear with continuous fire, keeping his strings of shots centered on the charging mass. Multiple rounds connect with the vital triangle of the chest and neck. The bear drops at roughly 10 feet. It does not slide or redirect. It stops. Its carcass comes to rest yards from the cabin door. The proximity of the body to the structure is the detail that circulated through the Alaskan community afterward. It is a precise physical illustration of how little distance separates a defended outcome from an undefended one when the encounter begins at residential range. Ballistic findings and aftermath. To understand what the 10mm accomplished mechanically, we looked to the investigation. Investigators confirmed multiple hits in the chest and neck region. The wound pattern was consistent with the shooter maintaining sight alignment through successive rounds, a result the 10mm recoil profile makes achievable under stress in a way that heavier Magnum revolvers often do not. A .44 Magnum carries more raw energy per round, but its muzzle flip requires deliberate reacquisition of the sight picture between shots. In a charge lasting 2 to 3 seconds, split time, the interval between effective rounds, is as tactically significant as raw foot-pounds. Jimmy did not need all 15 rounds. Having them available eliminated the psychological pressure of a round count, allowing him to stay in the fight until the bear was physically stopped. Jimmy continues to live and work on the property. He has not changed his carry caliber. He has become a consistent advocate for what his case demonstrated, that readiness during routine activity is indistinguishable in importance from readiness during deliberate fieldwork. Incident analysis. The controlling factor in this incident was accessibility. A long gun would have been inside the cabin or leaning against a wall 10 feet away, which was 10 feet that Jimmy did not have. By carrying a high-capacity handgun in a fixed holster position during all outdoor activities, he ensured the weapon was available at the moment the encounter began, rather than at the moment he recognized it was coming. The volume of fire was the mechanical solution. A revolver with 5 or 6 rounds of heavier ammunition might have ended the same way. The 15-round capacity provided a tactical floor that removed the constraint of counting shots under adrenal load. Practical takeaway. Jimmy Cox's incident is not primarily a story about the 10 millimeters. It is a story about the gun being on his body. The best defensive caliber in the world, leaning against a wall inside a cabin, stops nothing. Consistency of carry, during maintenance, during chores, during every moment spent outside in grizzly habitat, is the variable that determined the outcome here. The 10 millimeters helped. Being armed at all. A black bear lies on a gravel trail, its snout 2 feet from a hiker's boots. Spent brass from a 5-shot snub-nose .38 special revolver is scattered in the dry pine needles nearby. The hiker is uninjured. The bear is dead from a facial shot that disrupted its central nervous system. The ballistic weight of the cartridge that stopped it sits near the bottom of every published bear defense recommendation list. Late June 2018. The dense timber of the Blue Mountain region. Air temperature holds at 78 Fahrenheit degrees. The trail is a narrow corridor pressed between a rock face and a steep drop-off, the kind of topographic choke point that predators use instinctively, moving through it to minimize caloric output while hunting. The air carries the scent of damp earth and rotting leaf litter. The only sounds are the rhythmic strike of hiking poles and the occasional chatter of gray squirrels. A solo hiker is moving through this funnel at roughly 3 miles per hour. On his person is a standard 5-shot revolver loaded with 158-grain hard-cast lead bullets, a non-expanding projectile designed to maintain shape on contact and push through dense tissue rather than dumping energy at the surface. His bear spray is mounted on a pack strap. In the terrain he is moving through, that positioning will become relevant within minutes. To see why the terrain eliminated every option except the one the hiker used, we have to look at the geometry of the funnel. The V-shaped corridor removes lateral movement. There is no stepping off the trail, no breaking to the side. The rock face is on one edge, the drop-off on the other. Whatever comes down this trail toward the hiker has a straight, unobstructed approach, and so does the hiker's line of retreat. The first sensory signal is not visual. It is a rhythmic thud, the vibration of heavy paws on soft forest floor. Within 20 feet, a black bear weighing approximately 300 pounds detaches from the alder brush. Its ears are pinned back, head low, eyes fixed on the hiker's midsection. There is no huffing, no ground swatting, no bluff sequence. This is a predatory approach from an animal that has made a decision. The closing speed is estimated at 35 feet per second. At that rate, 20 feet of distance represents well under 1 second of available response time. The hiker cannot reach the bear spray on his pack strap. Tunnel vision narrows his visual field to the bear's chest. Adrenaline load produces a temporary loss of fine motor control. His hands are shaking when he draws the revolver. At less than 10 feet, he fires the first round. The 158-grain hard-cast bullet strikes the upper neck. There is no knockback. That is a cinematic artifact, not a physical reality. What the impact produces is localized pain, muzzle flash, and percussive noise at close range. The bear's forward momentum falters as its nervous system processes the input. That hesitation is the window. He fires twice more in rapid succession. The second round misses, carrying into the timber. The third enters the bear's facial structure near the snout. The animal collapses and skids on the gravel, stopping 2 feet from the hiker's boots. The revolver's hammer rests on a spent casing. The 5-shot cylinder is effectively empty. Medical findings and aftermath. To understand what the hard-cast ammunition accomplished, we looked to the ballistic analysis. Post-incident examination confirmed the bear was a healthy male with no signs of disease or starvation. The attack was predatory in intent. Ballistic analysis showed the 158-grain hard-cast rounds achieved 12 inches of penetration, a result hollow-point ammunition would not have produced. Standard defensive hollow points expand on contact and exhaust their energy in the first few inches of subcutaneous fat, stopping before reaching organs or skeletal structure. The non-expanding rounds maintained their shape and continued. The facial shot disrupted the central nervous system, producing immediate loss of motor control and respiratory failure. The hiker sustained no physical injuries. His heart rate remained elevated for over 60 minutes post-encounter, and he reported a rubbery sensation in his legs, consistent with post-adrenal crash. In the weeks following, he developed significant avoidance behavior around blind corners on trails and transitioned his carry method from a pack strap to a chest rig for faster access. He retained the .38 special, but moved to a heavier hardcast load to increase his penetration baseline. Incident analysis. The primary error was entering a high-density predator corridor without a noise-making protocol. Audible presence allows bears to move off before visual contact is established. The miss on the second shot illustrates the accuracy cost of a short-barreled revolver under extreme physiological stress. The snub-nose's short sight radius compounds the fine motor disruption that adrenaline load produces. The effective actions were ammunition selection and sustained fire. Hard-cast bullets reached vital tissue where hollow points would not have. Firing until the bear collapsed prevented a mauling that a single deterrent shot might not have stopped against a committed predatory animal. Practical takeaway. This encounter does not recommend the .38 special for bear country. It documents what the .38 special can do when loaded correctly and fired accurately under pressure. Hardcast, or FMJ ammunition, is non-negotiable in any small caliber defensive load against bears. Train until you can place 5 rounds into a 10-inch target at 10 feet under stress. A .38 in a chest rig with hardcast loads and a steady hand is a viable defensive tool. The same gun with hollow points and a pack strap holster is a significant liability.
A brown bear is dead in the Alaskan tundra, killed by a 9mm handgun, a caliber the ballistics community had spent decades dismissing as inadequate for the task. The 2 clients beside Phil Shoemaker are shaken but physically unharmed. The necropsy will later show that 6 of 7 rounds found vital tissue. What it will not show is the 33 years of bush experience that put those rounds where they needed to go. July 2016, the Betcheroff National Wildlife Refuge, southwestern Alaska. To understand why this encounter unfolded the way it did, you have to understand the terrain. Betcheroff sits at the intersection of high tundra grass, salmon-choked streams, and some of the densest concentrations of coastal brown bears on the continent. The alder thickets here grow thick and low, compressing visibility to a few yards in every direction. This is what guides call tight country, the kind of landscape where encounters happen at conversational distances with no warning interval between first sound and full contact. Phil Shoemaker is a master guide with 33 years of Alaskan bush experience. On this morning, he is leading 2 clients through one of those alder stands. He is carrying a Smith & Wesson 3953, a compact 9mm semi-automatic. His usual loadout, a .44 Magnum or a heavy rifle, is not on his hip. The 9mm felt lighter. It was a trade-off he understood and would reevaluate within seconds. The ammunition matters here. Phil's 3953 is loaded with Buffalo Bore 147-grain hard-cast outdoorsman rounds. These are not standard defensive loads.
They are non-expanding lead alloy projectiles engineered for one specific purpose: deep, straight-line penetration through bone and heavy muscle. That distinction will determine whether this incident ends as a defensive success or a fatality. To see why Phil had no interval between awareness and action, we have to look at the geometry of the approach. There is no warning sound, no vocalization, no bluff display. The brush detonates. A large brown bear, likely a sow defending a nearby kill or her immediate space, comes out of the thicket at point-blank range. The clients are pinned against the dense vegetation behind Phil. The bear does not target the guide. It goes directly for the clients. Phil draws the 9mm. He would tell reporters afterward that the pistol looked pathetic against the mass of the animal in front of him. That word is significant, not a tactical assessment, but a visceral one. The bear is large enough that the gun registers as inadequate before a single round has been fired. Phil moves anyway. He closes the distance, positioning himself within feet of the bear's flank while it is engaged with the clients. At that range, his low-energy projectiles do not have to travel through air or brush before impact. Every foot of distance lost to a 9mm round is energy the cartridge cannot afford to spend. He does not have an angle on the skull. Instead, he targets the head-shoulder junction, the region where the heavy neck musculature meets the cervical spine and the forward edge of the vitals. He fires, then fires again. The bear reacts to the impacts by spinning and biting at its own entry wounds. That response is the window. As the animal turns, Phil drives the remainder of the magazine into the vital zone behind the shoulder. 6 of 7 rounds connect. The bear collapses and dies within feet of the group. Total contact duration, seconds.
Medical findings and aftermath. To see what actually stopped the bear, we look to the necropsy. The hard-cast bullets performed as engineered. Standard hollow-point ammunition would have expanded on contact and exhausted its energy in the first few inches of hide and fat, stopping well short of any organ capable of shutting the animal down. These non-expanding rounds punched through heavy hide, fractured ribs, and reached the lungs and spine. The bear died from internal damage that only deep penetrating projectiles could have caused. Caliber diameter was not the deciding variable. Bullet construction was. Phil returned to guiding almost immediately. He did not become an advocate for the 9mm as a bear cartridge. He remained a pragmatist, noting that the caliber did not save him. The combination of specific ammunition and situational awareness did. He still carries the .44 Magnum. He still owns the heavy rifles. When asked about the 9mm, his consistent position is that a gun you can actually hit with outperforms a heavier weapon left in a pack. Incident analysis. The primary error in most bear encounters is failure to deploy a weapon in time. Phil's lightweight semi-auto was on his body, not in his gear. The 3953's double-action-only trigger provided a consistent pull under extreme physiological stress, supporting accuracy while moving. The tactical decision to close distance on an active mauling, rather than shoot from a safer interval, was the factor that made the 9mm viable. Proximity compensated for what energy the cartridge could not deliver at range. The systemic risk was ammunition dependency. With standard loads, this incident ends differently. Practical takeaway. Phil Shoemaker did not survive because the 9mm is a bear gun. He survived because he understood exactly what it was not and compensated with elite composure, correct ammunition, and aggressive positioning. Carrying a smaller caliber in bear country is a trade, off of carry for reduced margin of error. To make that trade work, you must perform at Phil's level under the worst conditions imaginable. Most people cannot.
Phil Shoemaker is not most people.
A 17-year-old boar grizzly lies dead in the dirt of the Thorofare, the most remote wilderness in the contiguous United States, 30 miles from the nearest paved road. Two hunters are standing over it with empty or near-empty revolvers. Federal investigators who flew into the backcountry to examine the scene wrote, "Clear case of self-defense" in the final report. They did not need to add that the margin between that outcome and a double fatality was measured in seconds and shot placement. September 2018, the Thorofare, Teton County, Wyoming. To understand the stakes of this encounter, you have to understand the geography. This is the furthest point from a road in the lower 48 states. A high-altitude labyrinth of lodgepole pine, jagged ridges, and willow-choked creek bottoms in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. There is no rapid evacuation from the Thorofare. There is no calling for backup. Help is not hours away. It is functionally non-existent. Every decision made here is made with the understanding that it is final. Two experienced outfitters have just harvested a bull elk and are beginning the work of breaking it down for pack horses. Their rifles, the tools that took the animal, are leaned against a tree several yards away, sidelined by the field dressing work at hand. On their hips are a .44 Magnum and a .357 Magnum. In the greater Yellowstone area, carrying a sidearm while working a carcass is not a precaution. It is a survival requirement, for a specific reason that experienced hunters here call the dinner bell effect. Grizzlies in this region have become conditioned to associate the crack of a high-powered rifle with an available food source. They do not move away from that sound. They move toward it. This bear is not hunting the hunters. It is coming to claim the elk. The distinction will not change what happens next. To see why the rifles against the tree were never a factor, we have to look at the geometry of the charge. The 17-year-old boar bursts from the timber at a dead run. There is no posturing, no vocalization, no bluff. At that age and size, this animal has resolved conflict in this wilderness for nearly 2 decades. The hunters are perceived as competitors for a food source, and the bear's response is immediate and total. Both men draw their handguns. They tell investigators afterward there was no time to coordinate. What follows is a dual shooter defense, a rare event in which 2 different calibers are deployed against a single target simultaneously. The .44 Magnum delivers the raw kinetic energy required to penetrate the bear's heavy frontal mass. The .357 Magnum allows faster follow-up shots as the distance collapses. Neither shooter is waiting to assess the effect of individual rounds. Both are firing into the vital zone as the animal closes. Multiple rounds from both revolvers connect. The bear drops and dies almost instantly, its momentum carrying it to within feet of the hunters. The silence that follows is the particular silence of a place 30 miles from any other human being. Forensic findings and aftermath. To understand what stopped the charge, we look to the federal necropsy. The investigation, conducted jointly by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and local game wardens, confirmed hits from both calibers. The necropsy showed that the combination of the .44's heavy penetrating lead and the .357's high-velocity rounds had produced cascading failure of the bear's central nervous system. Neither caliber alone defined the outcome. The volume and placement of rounds from 2 simultaneous shooters created a wound profile the animal could not survive past the first several seconds of contact. The hunters were cleared of wrongdoing. The recovery of the elk and the formal reporting of the incident required days of travel through the backcountry before reaching a satellite phone or ranger station. In the Thorofare, even a resolved defensive encounter carries a substantial logistical aftermath. Incident analysis. The controlling factor was redundancy.
One armed hunter facing this charge alone, with a single revolver, would have had limited round capacity against a large, fast-moving animal at close range. Two shooters created overlapping fields of fire that the bear's momentum could not outlast. While one managed the heavier recoil of the .44 and its slower split times, the other maintained a higher volume of fire with the .357. The combination produced the wall of incoming rounds that neither caliber could have generated independently. The dinner bell awareness was the tactical prerequisite. Because both hunters understood the specific risk profile of an elk kill in this ecosystem, their sidearms were on their bodies, not in their packs, not against a tree. The rifles were irrelevant the moment the bear cleared the timber. Practical takeaway. The Thorofare incident is a lesson in geography as risk. 30 miles from a road means 30 miles from any consequence but the one you create yourself. Carry a handgun on your body during all carcass work in grizzly country. Understand the dinner bell effect before you pull the trigger on an elk. And if you are working with a partner, 2 guns firing simultaneously are not twice as effective as one. In a close-range charge, they may be the entire difference.
If you've loved these terrifying true stories so far, we need your help to keep sharing them and create new episodes every week. Please grab your phone, scan the QR code now, and tap the subscribe button that opens on your screen.